Hello, this is Paul the Okanite coming to you after one of the biggest game delivery days I ever had. Count 'em, four top flight GMT games delivered, all in one big honkin' box. As I keep telling you, this right now is the golden age of gaming. Oh yeah. And while all four are worthy of an unboxing, the one that jumped into my hand first was Into the Woods, the Battle of Shiloh, April 6-7, 1862. This is the latest installment of the long-lasting series, The Great Battles of the American Civil War, originally designed by the late Richard Berg. Believe me, I could do an entire presentation on this series alone. But for today, let's just focus on what we have here in front of us. The box is standard GMT fare, solid, functional, and does the job. I like the period artwork and how it evokes both the desperation and carnage present in the Union line on the first day of the battle. The flip side reveals an example of the map art and counters, gives a thumbnail description of the battle, the game, along with some facts and figures. But I do beg to differ with the description, calling this the 8th entry in the GBA-CW series. Yes, it is the 8th published by GMT, but we can't ignore the history of the series spanning multiple publishers, and that is now into its 6th, count 'em, 6th decade. Truly, this series is wargaming royalty. The game, as was the battle, is medium-sized with 2 full-size maps plus a smaller 2-sided map intended for scenario play. The complexity and solitaire ratings of 7 both sound about right. However, estimated playtime of 3 to 8 hours has to be for the smaller scenarios. For the campaign, even if only the first day of the battle, 8 hours is sheer fantasy. The player count of 1 to 4 is reasonable. I remember playing the 1979 release of Bloody April by SPI with 4 players, and it was awesome sauce. Into the Woods might even be better. Series games generally separate rules between a series rulebook and a book just for the game in hand. ITW is no different. The 2021 GBA-CW series rules included are 44 pages long, 40 of which are series rules plus an optional fatigue rule. Rules are printed on good quality matte finished paper with the illustrations and hitboxes printed in color. Font is set in 2 columns and uses a font that is not hard to read. Thank you, GMT. Compare to the old 1979 SPI rulebook and you can see what I mean. The book finishes with a very good and useful 2-page index. Really, with modern word processors, no rulebook should ever see the light of day without one. This one is just fine. The so-called battle book adds another 46 pages to the count, but only about 10 pages of additional rules. A lot of space is given to the many scenarios, and unlike any Gettysburg game, requires spilling ink on setup tables for each and every scenario included. And the designer's notes are a particularly good read. The part about how the project got started is cool, and even describe Richard Berg's role in the process. Imagine a dinner meeting where the developer, Dick Whitaker, was given an offer he couldn't refuse, followed by an extended hand with a ring kiss. You get the idea. The counters are standard 1/2 inch, but then the entire series has used 1/2 inch counters, so why change now? While they may be small by today's standards, I know from other games in GMT's take on the series that they play okay, at least until the sometimes dense tacks collide. Be sure to bring your favorite tweezers before getting too far into this one. The counters have a different kind of satin finish that I actually like. It's not glossy, it's not matte, it's somewhere in between, and I like it. Just by looking at the counters, you can see that this is a chit pull game. Turns are hourly, with some variable number of chit pulls based on formation, first rolled out in the 3 days of Gettysburg. This procedure replaces the simulated 20-minute turns and strict alternating player turns in the original 1979 game. Players will be continuously engaged, not having to sit around for an hour waiting for their opponent's move. Units are generally regiment and battery, with their brigade and higher level leaders also present. Note that neither side had fully developed their command structure and control doctrine by Shiloh. The Union armies had divisions but no corps, while the Confederates had corps but no divisions. These guys couldn't agree on anything. The 2 campaign maps, plus the 2-sided scenario maps, looks fine, and gamers should be okay with the terrain and other symbology used. That being said, my biggest gripe is with the maps. Specifically, for some reason, these maps are printed on thinner paper than other GMT games I have seen. After comparing to other GMT games, even within the same series, yes, these maps are on thinner paper. The thinner stock does not make the game less playable, but it makes the maps more fragile. You gotta handle these guys with care when used, and they should definitely be played under plexi. With care, they should be okay, just don't do anything ham-fisted. GMT, please do not make this the new standard for your maps. Several player aids are provided and look fine. All the usual suspects are here, plus others to organize formation activation chits, turn records, random battlefield events, and alerting the surprise Union army at the start of the battle. All good here. And finally, and this is hardly worth mentioning, GMT placed this cardboard insert at the bottom of the box, mostly just to take up space. I think most gamers would have preferred to save an inch of shelf space with a 1.5-inch box rather than the thicker one provided. Hey, you collect enough of these things and shelf space becomes a valuable commodity. To sum up, I expect that Into the Woods will be a great addition to the line. Anyone familiar with and who likes the earlier GMT entries should also like this one, not only because of the game, but also because Shiloh is one of the best ACW engagements to simulate. Its medium size should work well with the chit pull mechanic. The battlefield situation will let the CSA player explore different axes of advance. The Union will be pressed to the limit to hold the line until help arrives. Sounds like a recipe for some serious fun. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you want to check in more often. Your support will help the channel and you will be part of our growing community. And that's all for now. This is Paul, the Oaken Knight, wishing you all a pleasant evening.